What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripePipe.com. We're getting used to doing all these shows after losses, and it's getting old. It's getting old really fast. Tim Dandry here, excited for this week's show as we get ready for the Buffalo Bills coming to town. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, with none other than Matt Wilson and Shelby Dermer, our excellent panel. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. And we actually haven't done this show after a loss in quite some time. You think about it, October 16th was our last loss.
Yeah, but we've done 5 losses this year already.
True.
And one tie.
You know how many times the Bengals lost last year? 4. And they played 16 games.
And Tim, how many shows did we do last year?
None. But we had a really good year, basically, of just talking the draft. We've been doing this show 9 months already. Isn't that crazy?
February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, good times.
Yeah, Shelby, you've been a true veteran. So guys, a very frustrating loss to the New York Giants this week, 21-20 on Monday Night Football. I'm really shocked I haven't heard any Bengals primetime jokes, but that's probably because the Bengals really aren't that good. A weird game. The first drive, the Giants just drive down and take care of business, catch Vinny Ray out of position for the first touchdown. Tyler Eifert goes for 71 yards, and then Ken Zampese's like, LOL, I'm not going to use him at all the rest of the game. And then A.J. Green scores a touchdown. Odell Beckham is a really sweet, filthy move on double move on Adam Jones to get him out of position to score a touchdown. Then Alex Erickson has a nice kick return. By the way, he's averaged 31 yards a return because of 2 kicks. Otherwise, he's, we'll get to that. Let's see. Jeremy Hill gets in the end zone. Bengals have a really good third quarter. So then the Bengals take the lead. It looks like everything's going well. And then comes the fourth quarter, and we know exactly what the Giants are going to do on 4th and goal on the 1. And they run a shallow across the 1-yard line. And Vontaze Burfict's out of position and gets scored on. And then the Bengals have an interception. Then they get an interception right back, and then they just can't get it to stay out of 3rd and long because their offensive line can't block anybody. So this team is 3-5-1, Shelby, and I think at this point we can say they are exactly what they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many problems, and it kind of varies from week to week. In games against Denver and Dallas and New England and Washington, it was the defense that was just putrid. The pass rush wasn't getting there. The secondary was getting carved up. And then I think against the Giants last Monday, in all honesty, I thought the defense played above par from what we've seen for most of the season. But then again, you gotta win in all 3 phases. And I think the Bengals won on special teams. Nugent hit both field goals. Erickson had a couple nice returns. But on offense, it starts with the 5 guys up front. And, out of all the problems on this team, you can attribute, the secondary lost Reggie Nelson and Leon Hall. The passing game with the skilled positions lost Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones. But you look at this offensive line, and it's the same group except Andre Smith, and he's been replaced from Cedric Ogbuehi. But, on Monday night, the offensive line was probably the worst we've seen it all season. Andrew Whitworth has a big holding penalty that negates a 3rd down conversion from Giovanni Bernard, backs him up into 3rd and long. Clint Bowling was getting beat by like a drum, and then when you can least afford it for the Bengals, and that was their final drive of the game was Dalton got sacked on back-to-back plays, and I think one of them he had 4 Giants wrapped around him while 5 offensive linemen stood there and watched, and it was awful to see. So I think you pin this one on the offensive line, and we're just waiting for the day where all 3 phases play like the team that tied a franchise record with 12 wins last season.
So I'm gonna be that guy, and I hate being that guy.
You love it.
I don't because I've never been the Marvin Lewis fault guy.
Tim, you love it.
I fully
don't laugh, Matt. You love it too.
We know Matt loves it. There's no
Matt,
denying.
You love it.
Yeah. I have some blame towards Marvin Lewis in this one because for some reason or another he never knows what he wants to do. The drive before the end of the half, the whole I think, like I said, I feel like he has the Hail Mary in his game plan. I feel like that is like a goal. Like that's in the playbook. He's like, all right, we're just gonna joke around a little bit. I'll throw a little slant to LaFell. I'll have Gio get a little run here. Then we're gonna throw a little crossing route to AJ. If we can't hit him, Hail Mary. All right, let's not try to score a field goal. Let's try to score a touchdown for 55 yards. That's a good plan. His management of the drive before the half, granted 1 week it works out with the Hail Mary against Cleveland, is so frustrating, and I don't understand it. Complaint 2 on the coaching. So the first drive, the play that gets the Bengals going, Tyler Eifert's 71-yard play. Two
Great
catches,
play.
Unbelievable play. Like really smart with that formation that they use that doesn't work anymore. Let's be honest. People have figured it out. And then you have Eifert go down the seam going one-on-one with the tight end for 71 yards. The rest of the game, the only time he gets 2 catches, and one of them is on an Andy scramble that he floats the ball to him just to get their only first down and 3rd and long. So, Matt, I know you're one to yell about Zampese and Paul Gunther. So I'm going to give you the floor to do that now, man. Take your shot.
Well, first off, I mean, plain and simple, the coaching this season has been abysmal. And that's something that I've sat there and blamed the coordinators, but in all honesty, Marvin Lewis hasn't been anywhere near what he needs to be as a head coach. And, he is intelligent in terms of when it comes to knowing the rules and knowing the process. We saw against, was it last year against Tampa Bay or 2 years ago against Tampa Bay, where 2 years ago, where all of a sudden he's throwing a challenge flag in an unchallengeable situation to get the boost attention, but he had a timeout to burn. So when he threw the flag, he just basically wasted a timeout, but at the same time to get the boost attention before Tampa Bay could snap the ball again. I mean, he is very football intelligent. The only problem is he can't game plan worth crap, and once you get into the game, there's no adjustments being made. And so it's frustrating because you know that he is capable of bringing in the guys that need to be here in order to put something together, but he's terrible at executing it, which is why I think that he is a perfect GM.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Here
Matt's
we go.
bringing up the GM.
It's like 3 minutes into this episode. 3 minutes.
But you told me I had the floor, so you knew it was coming. But in all honesty, I mean, he's a player's coach, and we know he's a player's coach. Why not be a player's GM and let him be what he's good at, and that's drafting players and allowing them to be on a team with all the pieces, but bring in a coach that has a freaking clue.
Here's the thing we're going to go with that, though. Say that case is offered. Say Mike Brown says, okay, we'll do that. What makes you think Marvin Lewis will go, okay, I'll do it?
Well, Marvin Lewis loves this team, first and foremost. So an opportunity to stay with this team, if you look at Marvin Lewis and go, okay, here's your options. You can leave, or you can stay with this team, bump up to general manager, and still be around this team that you love. Marvin Lewis has been plain and simple forthright in saying that he loves this organization. He loves being a part of this organization. And if he has a chance to stay with his guys and continue to see them be successful, why not?
One, because he loves the organization, because no other organization would keep him after all these playoff losses.
You're probably right.
And two, unless Mike Brown, knock on wood, drops dead, it'll never happen. He would never give up that responsibility.
Just to be clear, are you knocking on wood for the fact that you want him to die or not want him to die?
What do you think? What do you think?
We don't wish death on this show, Matt.
Usually.
Furthermore,
I don't know if Marvin Lewis would stick around. I mean, this is the guy that said, if I win the Super Bowl last year, I'll walk away. So, I mean, that doesn't really sound like someone that would, but, the GM is a different thing. But my biggest thing with that is that Mike Brown will never let it happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And, Marvin continuously gets these 1-year deals. And, I mean, we've been in this situation before. Don't you remember, what was it? The year before Dalton and Green. Marvin was linked to the Pitt job. Pitt was open. Hey, he's a Pittsburgh guy. We're going to interview him. There was reports that the interview was going to happen, and obviously he signed with the Bengals, so their interview didn't happen. And, obviously that started a great thing for the Bengals era. But, I hate to say it, that window feels like it's closing. And I think that window might have started that closing this offseason. They still drafted well. It's not their fault guys got hurt. But if you look at their roster, what they have now, you take out William Jackson, you take out Andrew Billings, this team's and Ray Maluga last week, this team's relatively healthy. It's the guys.
Yeah.
But there's some aging problems. We've talked about Petco all year, and him not being able to step in. We've talked about Michael Johnson basically disappearing. Vontaze Burfict had a really good game Monday night. I know I mentioned the play where that Sterling Shepard beats him.
He did. That's what.
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying. I don't know why, but I really like the defense on Monday night. I think they tackled really well.
Yeah.
On that 3rd and goal before Eli hit Shepard for the touchdown, Burfict wrapped up and made a tackle at the 3-yard line, and any other team, ours included, would have kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
But and outside of a great Odell Beckham move, and the first drive of the game where the Bengals were asleep, I don't know. I thought Paul Gunther did a great job with as much as he could.
He did, and he put everyone in the right situation. And you saw that especially with the Drake Kirkpatrick pick. That was a beautiful play. That was awesome. Really good coverage and jumps over. And I thought he was going to score. I definitely thought he was going to score. And then
I wish he would have.
I know it would have been all the difference. 2, I thought I know he was out of place in the first drive. Vinny Ray played well. He really played well. And we really saw Loka and Sean Williams really make some plays. It's just, it comes down to, I thought Adam Jones actually played okay minus the drive, but, that's becoming a common thing is Adam Jones giving up red zone touchdowns now, unfortunately. He aged fast. So, that's I'm getting off traffic there. So, Shelby, I know Lance McAllister, and I know that's a name Cincinnati fans love to hear. He tweeted they're done, and I just your exact answer to that was wrong. Was what you put on Twitter.
Donald Trump-esque wrong, because he's so wrong. That's ludicrous to say they're done. A run's not happening. How does a guy just say that? I wrote it in an article today that's saved right now. The Bengals. They sit at 3-5-1. They're 1 game back in the loss column to Baltimore, a team that you've beaten 5 straight times, and a team you get to play 2 more times. You still get a crack at Pittsburgh. You still finally get to play games at home again. So, to say that this team's done, and maybe it was because I thought the performance on Monday night outside the offensive line was good enough to win.
I did too.
I liked what I saw out of them, and that's why I think this team goes on a 4-game winning streak right now, and they host Pittsburgh in Week 15 at a 7-5-1 record. And then you look at Baltimore's schedule; they still have to play New England. They play Dallas this weekend. They play Pittsburgh one more time, and they play us twice. They got a tough road ahead. And with how bad the AFC North's been, to say this team's done with 7 games left, I don't know, just a little jump in the gun for me.
No, and I even said it in an article I think I put out Monday that, there is a potential of them sweeping the divisional games, which is 4 wins. If you look at that puts them a half game ahead of Baltimore at a minimum. It puts them a half game ahead of the Steelers at a minimum. And it all depends on the non-divisional games coming up. And that includes the Bills, that includes the Eagles, and that includes Houston.
Absolutely.
And so, for me, yes, I absolutely think that. Do they have a chance? Absolutely. Until there is a total elimination from any playoff contention, there is always a chance. Do I think their opportunity is dwindling?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Tons.
But there is a difference. To say they're done is a joke because they're not done.
The Browns aren't done.
The Browns still actually have a mathematically possible chance. It may be 5%, but there's still a mathematical chance. So until that number is 0, obviously they're not done. I think their light is dimming. I think their opportunity is closing, but we've seen them make runs before.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw an 8-game run to begin last season. Why can't they make a 7-game run to finish this season? So, I mean, there's different things that come into play. Is it likely? Probably not. But in all honesty, they still have a chance.
And my biggest thing about these next 4 games is I look and I see, okay, Tyrod Taylor, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, and either Cody Kessler or RG3, whether he's healthy. It's like, I know I've been spoiled the last 5 years with good Bengals teams, but, you can beat those 4 quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And granted, we thought we could beat Dak Prescott. We've obviously been proven wrong with that, and that loss was justified with how good the Cowboys are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We thought we could beat Trevor Siemian, and he went off that game, and that's looking like an outlier on his stat line this season. But the Denver defense is as good as advertised. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just looking at these next 4 quarterbacks we face, and the teams in general that we face. These 4 offenses coming up are not good statistically, as in terms of points. The Bills struggle putting up points. The Ravens do. The Eagles defense has been even a bigger surprise than Carson Wentz's play.
Yeah.
And the Browns are winless. So, that's why it was so frustrating to see him say, oh, they're done. A run's not happening. It's like, let them. They still have nearly an entire second half to go. And they're 1 game back the loss column. Calm down.
But not to mention, they are breaking out the black-on-black unis this weekend. We know anyone who follows the uniform records knows that that's not the most ideal situation for the Bengals.
Maybe they're going to a funeral. Their own.
Yeah. Was that like a Walk the Line reference? Was that a Johnny
Yes,
Cash
it was.
reference? I love it.
Tim.
I love
Yes.
it. I love
Yes.
it. Shelby and I are on the same page. I don't know if people know this or not. So I think, let's close the door on New York, and let's move on to Buffalo, and let's get over it, and let's talk about Shady McCoy and the Buffalo Bills without Sammy Watkins. Like you mentioned, a Tyrod Taylor, who the Bengals didn't play last year, if you remember, because he was injured when the Bengals went to Buffalo. EJ Manuel, yes. It's going to be an interesting game. It's a winnable game. The Bengals are... Yesterday there was some reports about some injuries there. Dalton limited in practice, Eifert limited in practice, LaFell limited in practice. But today, the only one that wasn't a full participant in practice looked like it was Wallace Gilberry. So they're healthy again. No worries there. The thing that really concerns me about this game is Buffalo's pretty good against the pass this year. I think they're 10th in the league against the pass. But other than that, I really think the Bengals are better than them in every aspect of the game, even at 3-5-1.
The other thing the Bengals kind of have going for them is the Buffalo Bills are 4-5, and so they beat every team they've played under 500, and so it kind of bodes well, at least record-wise, for the Bengals, and at least this season's history. But for that, the Buffalo Bills are definitely a team that are beatable.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But and it's going to be a completely different team than what we saw in the Giants. And they run the ball well, they don't throw the ball well. And on defense, the only thing that's really concerning me, because I don't think the Bengals rush defense has been as bad as we've seen, or as the stats show. Ezekiel Elliott went off against us. Matt Forte in week 1 had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm trying to think who else besides Kevin Hogan running the option, and Robert Kelly from the Redskins had a decent night as well.
Isaiah
in
Crowell
London.
had some good runs in the Cleveland game, but it wasn't a great day.
Yeah, I mean, the score kind of limited his touches.
Yeah.
In that one, but I'm still confident in the running defense, and if on the outside for Buffalo, Robert Woods and Marquise Goodwin, pretty Goodwin's a deep threat. Robert Woods is their leading receiver with like 39 catches, so I like that those stats. But the only thing really concerning me is how bad the offensive line performed against the Giants. Now who were like one of the worst in pass rush.
Yeah.
Now you're facing a Bills team that is absolutely the best in that category. And Dalton, he said earlier this week, I saw on Bengals.com, is like he knows he's going to get a ton of blitzes from the Ryan brothers this week. I guess the silver lining there is that he's beaten Rex back-to-back times, one with the Jets in 2013 and last year with the Bills in Buffalo. He had a good game there. But that's my one really concern, and that's why I think it'll be a low-scoring game is protecting Dalton against Lorenzo Alexander, who's got 10 sacks, Jerry Hughes, Kyle Williams, Zach Brown. All those guys have really been rushing the passer well this season.
Oh my God, they have, and they blitz their safeties a lot too, which is like going to take the top off a few times, so that's going to be nice. This is going to be a game, and I this is another broken record Men in Stripes thing, I'm assuming, where I think this has got to be a game where they've got to get Gio Bernard in the action too. Like, I know we say this all the time, and he's got some touchdowns. He's 2 in the last 3 games he's scored, but very non-existent against the Giants again. So, this is going to be a game where you're probably going to run draws because they're going to blitz. You're going to try to catch them on over-aggressiveness. It's going to be a game when Jeremy Hill's going to have to break some carries. They're going to run some counters with him. Shelby, I agree, man. I don't think, as much as I said they blitz safeties, I don't think they're going to throw the ball deep a lot this week because I think that's going to be in preparation for the Bills. I think that you're going to have to run slant routes. You're going to have to run quick releases, and I think that's another way to protect Andy in that situation. So I'm with you. The game plan this week with that Bills crazy front 7, 100% has to be don't let Dalton get touched. I mean, at this point, let's just say if he gets sacked twice, the offensive line had a good day.
Yeah, absolutely, and from what we saw last year with Dalton prior to the injury is that, he works better when he gets the ball out quicker.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did against Buffalo. And if you remember last year against Buffalo, Giovanni Bernard had a big game. He had a rushing touchdown, and that was his only rushing touchdown until he scored against Cleveland a few weeks, or the last time the Bengals won, that was October 23rd. And, it is a broken record, but, Bernard has to get involved, and I think Zampese actually did a good job trying to get him involved. He had a catch and run called back for a holding, and he had a big 3rd and 2 in the third quarter got called back for holding on Andrew Whitworth on Landon Collins. So, yeah, he's definitely got to get in the mix more. But, the biggest thing with blitzing all the time is that you're going to leave a lot of one-on-ones for A.J. Green, and I think it's a game where, Green will probably catch a lot of slants, some screens, and it'll be his job to break a tackle and get off to the races.
So, Matt, what are you looking forward to from this game? I have a feeling you're looking forward to Big 85 making some plays in this game, aren't you?
Oh, definitely looking for Eifert to make some big plays. I'm also looking for Gio to make some big plays. I mean, I think the aspect of Giovanni Bernard needing to get back into this game and being a factor in this game is huge. And the fact that what was it? I think there was a 3rd and 1 play last week that they had Jeremy Hill running on instead of their actual 3rd down back, aka Giovanni Bernard, and Jeremy Hill got stuffed. I mean, Giovanni Bernard is a huge part of this offense in both the pass game and the run game, or at least the short yardage run game, and that's because he seems to like to put his head down and just kind of run through things. And he seems to have the ability to. I mean, granted, the guy's 5'8", so you think a 6'4", 6'5" lineman is going to be basically wrapping his arms around nothing if he ducks. But, Giovanni Bernard has been a very good piece of this offense, and especially when he gets going and you get Jeremy Hill going at the same time, it's very hard to stop this team because they become very well balanced. and they keep defenses on their toes and keep them honest. And that's what's going to beat a pass rush like the Buffalo Bills, is keeping that defense honest by a balanced offense. And if they get behind early and they can't, and they've got to play catch up, it's going to be a long day for the Bengals.
So let's talk about the defensive side, because we talked about it very much about what the Buffalo Bills can do on defense. Shelby mentioned Robert Woods is their top receiver. I like Robert Woods, but he's not exactly supposed to be a WR1. We know how good LaShawn McCoy is. I think he's ageless, and he's having a good year in Buffalo. They've blocked really well for him. He's made some plays. He's got a little bit of that Philadelphia touchback. I like Tyrod Taylor. He's a great athlete. I think he's got a good arm, but he's not the best decision maker we've seen in the past game. Obviously, it's really hard without Sammy Watkins. I get that, but and Charles Clay is the weirdest fantasy football tight end case in the world, because some people absolutely love him, some people absolutely hate him. So there's that in there as well. But I really feel like they don't have anything besides Shady McCoy, really, where I go, I'm really afraid of this Buffalo Bills team on offense. Richie Incognito's had a good year blocking for them. Eric Wood broke his leg, so he's out. So Shelby, I really think this is a game where the Bengals defense, if they keep the Buffalo Bills in front of them, they can really make this game pretty easy. Yeah,
absolutely. You nailed it right on the head there, Tim. And it all starts with Shady in the backfield, and they also have Mike Gillespie, I think how you say his last name. He's averaging 6 yards a carry too. So it's been total domination from the offensive front from the Bills. And with Tyrod Taylor, it's really unfortunate he's working without Sammy Watkins, his number one guy, because he's not turning the ball over at all. I think he has 2 or 3 interceptions this season.
Yeah.
And we saw last year the Bills' offense performing pretty well with Taylor, and when Sammy Watkins was healthy, he had the foot issue. I think he injured it against the Bengals, catching a touchdown last season. But Taylor is 29th in the NFL in yards per attempt. He's right around 6.5 yards. I think Brock Osweiler and Joe Flacco are the only two worse than him in that category. So you're definitely right. I think the Bengals, if the defense plays just like they did against the Giants, where they don't give up big plays and they wrap up and tackle in front of the third down marker, or in the first down marker, excuse me. That's the same formula that Gunther followed to have such a great scoring defense last season, and it could come into play against Buffalo this Sunday.
It is. I agree with that. Matt, we're going to see Wallace Gilberry hopefully be back in this game. If not, obviously the Bengals front four has really got to make some big plays there. Carlos Dunlap, again, I think I said this last week. I know he's having a good year stat-wise, but another time when he has not really shown up yet in these past couple weeks. I think this is going to be a day where Carlos Dunlap really lets people know that he's still around.
Yeah, Carlos Dunlap is definitely going to be, again, a key piece on this defense, as he is always. But we saw something that we hadn't really seen, and that's Geno Atkins getting pressure last week against a team that, we knew had a little bit of issue in terms of the front line. But Atkins just was always in front of Eli Manning. And I was excited about that because he brings another element to this game. And if you can get pressure on the inside and collapse that pocket from both the inside and the outside, Tyrod Taylor is going to have a long day. And that's something that I think the Bengals need to do defensively, is get pressure on him and collapse the pocket in a few different ways and make Taylor uncomfortable in there, because that's honestly, I think, what's going to get him shaken a little bit. And so it starts with those two. It starts with Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins. And again, the Bengals have to bring more than just 4 guys on every down. They've got to get at least 1 or 2 linebackers on a blitz and bring an overload of guys where, make Shady McCoy have to make a block. Make these guys have to think twice about who they're guarding. You can't double team Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap if you got 5 guys on the line and you got 6 guys rushing you. So that's going to be huge and a key piece to this defense this week.
For sure. So, guys, I think we touched a little bit on there. The other most important part is keep making field goals. Keep playing good special teams like you did last week. block for Alex Erickson because apparently good things happen when you do. Overall, I think in all three aspects of the game, the Bengals are a better team. I do think this could be low scoring, but I do think that A.J. Green's going to get a touchdown this game. And I also think Tyler Eifert is going to join him in the end zone at some point. I like the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. I'm going to say about 20-14. I think it's going to be one of those games.
Yeah, I like the Bengals too, but also I like the low score as well. I said something along the lines of like 17-13, which, in the past, holding the opponent to 13 points was automatic. And, hopefully the Bengals offense, as long as they protect Dalton in this game, they have an outstanding chance to get back in the win column.
I hate that we're all going to agree because I think we went like 1-6 last week when we all agreed. But I'm right there with you guys. I think Bengals find a way to get a win. I think it will be low scoring. I'm going to go 17-10 on this one.
Awesome. So, guys, now we've gone through and touched on all those. You ready to pick some other games?
Let's do it.
All right, let's start with tonight. Thursday Night Football. Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers hosting Drew Brees and the red-hot New Orleans Saints. I'm kidding. They lost last week in the most crazy way ever. That was a crazy game, but it was neat to see. We all know how much I love Drew Brees, but I think Cam and the Panthers are starting to get their feet back underneath them, especially at home. I like the Panthers to win this one and make both teams 4-6.
I like the Panthers too. Just an element about playing at home, and we all know Drew Brees tends to struggle outside the Superdome. And that being said, under the lights, the Panthers, even though they blew an enormous opportunity last week against a really good Chiefs team, I'm going to go with the Panthers at home.
See, I criticized Drew Brees last week, and I got eaten alive by Tim. Shelby does it this week, and he doesn't. I'm going Carolina as well.
No, he was playing at home last week.
You also said you said last week that he is not a good quarterback away from there, and that's totally not true.
I said mediocre. Mediocre.
That's not even true.
Yeah. You're telling our listeners lies, Matt, is what you're doing. That's what you're doing. So let's go ahead and talk about why do we even break this game? Why do we even pick Cleveland Brown games anymore, guys? Steelers, Browns in Cleveland. Steelers are 8-point favorites. That's not enough. The Steelers are going to win this game by 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell's going to have 150 yards.
I'm going to go with the Steelers, but I have a feeling Matt's going to go with the Browns.
Can I tell you what what Pittsburgh media is saying first?
Yes, please.
Pittsburgh media is actually sitting here saying they wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers lost to the Browns. Just the way they've been playing the past 2 weeks. I do think Ben Roethlisberger gets back on track this week, and I think the Steelers win.
Gentlemen, say it with me. How about them Cowboys hosting the Baltimore Ravens this week? Ezekiel Elliott, another 130-yard game. Maybe catch a couple passes. Dak Prescott makes things happen. Tony Romo dressing, not playing, obviously. Cowboys are going to be 9-1.
Yep, right there with you. Big Cowboy fan for the third straight week. They're playing the AFC North for a third straight week, and I think they get it done, especially playing at home against Joe Flacco's been mediocre all season. And I like the Cowboys to go 9-1.
Go Big D.
The Detroit Lions hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Remember when people thought the Jaguars would be good?
Hilarious.
In Detroit, where Matt Stafford is, having a Drew Brees-like year at home. Marvin Jones has kind of come back down to earth, but I still think that Detroit just has too much with guys like Theo Riddick, Golden Tate, Eric Ebron, and for some reason or another, Grandpa Anquan Bolden making things happen. The Detroit Lions will be 6-4 after this week.
Yeah, I agree, Tim, and it's funny how Gus Bradley could keep his job. I know they're calling for his head down in Jacksonville, and Detroit. You said it perfectly. They have too many weapons for Jacksonville this weekend.
Man, if only their receivers actually could get going, Jacksonville could potentially be at least a decent team, if that. But no, I'm with you guys. I think Detroit's going to run all over them.
We haven't disagreed once yet, guys. This is getting weird.
I have a feeling this next one we might.
The Tennessee Titans and red hot Marcus Mariota might be the guy on the best streak right now for that team. Made the best. Might be statistically the best quarterback the last month. If I haven't looked at the numbers, I'm sure Shelby has. He can just probably tell me I'm wrong there. Going to Indy to play the Colts. This is a must-win for the Colts. It's at Lucas Oil, where the crowd does not have any energy at all. I know, I've been there a couple times. But I trust Andrew Luck in this game. I think, down-to-the-wire game where they really need a win to keep up with everyone else in that division. I'm going to take the Colts at home. I think Andrew Luck probably throws about 325. And T.Y. Hilton does some crazy play to win the game. Yeah,
and I'm going to go with the Colts, too. The Colts got a big win in Tennessee their last time they're playing, and the Titans tend to struggle with the Colts. And to answer your question, Tim, he's actually fourth over the last month behind Brady, Ryan, and Carr.
So close.
I finally love our first disagreement. I'm going Tennessee Titans. I think DeMarco Murray is going to be too much. I do think that Marcus Mariota is the hottest quarterback so far in what we've seen the past few weeks, and I think he's going to continue it, and I think DeMarco Murray is going to make it happen. And so Colts defense struggles. DeMarco Murray has a huge game, and needless to say, Tennessee wins.
The Kansas City Chiefs at 7-2 host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Guys, I know what the records show, but I'm back and forth in this game. I'm going to go with Kansas City because I think it's the right move. But something tells me Mike Evans, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a Buccaneers win. But just be safe. Spencer Ware's going to have a big day. I like Alex Smith a lot in this game. If only he can get Jeremy Maclin to be what Jeremy Maclin was last year again. But the Kansas City Chiefs are on fire right now, and they're going to keep that going.
Yeah, and Mike Evans against this secondary going for a couple touchdowns and over 100 yards, I wouldn't take that bet, Tim. But yeah, I like the Chiefs too. Alex Smith tends to play mistake-free for most of the time, and Jameis Winston's the opposite of that. And I think the Chiefs secondary will have a big week this week.
Chiefs.
Our previous opponents, the 6-3 New York Football Giants, playing the Chicago Bears at home. This could be another fun day in the Meadowlands for the Giants.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Jay Cutler looked about as bad as Jay Cutler's ever looked last week against Tampa Bay in a blowout loss, and Giants get another win this week.
Yeah, G-men do it. They do it big.
The Minnesota Vikings hosting the Carson Palmer Arizona Cardinals, and Carson Palmer has come back down to earth, though so have the Minnesota Vikings. I will take the Vikings strictly because it's a home game, but something tells me that they're not going to have enough offensive weapons and their offensive line's not going to stay up. But I think that defense is going to just be able to make enough plays. And Harrison Smith will pick off Carson Palmer this week.
I'm going to go with the Cardinals just because I don't think Sam Bradford's going to be able to put up any points in this game. Cardinals secondary's been fairly well so far, the no-fly zone of the NFC. David Johnson for the Cardinals, he's been a fantasy stud this year, just always seems to find the end zone. And the Vikings, they can't run behind that offensive line. They can't protect Sam Bradford, and I think they lose this week at home.
Did you two just have your first disagreement?
We did.
Wow.
Never mind, I switched Vikings.
Too late. We're going. I'm going Cardinals as well. I think Minnesota slide continues. I think it's sad because I like Mike Zimmer. I love his defense typically, and I just think this offense is finally grown tired and can't keep up with it.
So, guys, the Jared Goff era is upon us as the first-round pick of this year's draft will finally get his first start at home in L.A. The Miami Dolphins coming to town. I want to say the Rams are going to win because I like Goff and I can't wait to show for him to show what he can do when he plays. I just don't think they will because Todd Gurley can't get going because their offensive line's terrible. Kenny Britt's their best receiver right now, which that should be not allowed. That should be against the rules. And though at the same point, I don't think Jarvis Landry's going to be able to have a great day against this Rams team either. But if I had to pick them, I will pick the Miami Dolphins strictly because I think they're just going to have a little too much there. But I want to see. My hope is Jared Goff has a nice 260 and a couple touchdown game. I'll take that.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins too. And to your point, Jarvis Landry hasn't had any good games this year.
Yeah.
His only good game was against the Browns. I know because of fantasy purposes, but I think the Dolphins are a hot team too. If you would have asked me about 4 weeks ago and this matchup happened, I would have definitely said the Rams win it with their defense. But I see a low-scoring game here with Goff being a rookie, Gurley not getting going, and the Rams' defense. I'm sure Matt will bring up Aaron Donald, but I think that the Dolphins will win a close one.
Who am I bringing up again? Aaron Donald? I've never heard of the guy. No,
who am I thinking about? Rams.
You're right. It is Aaron Donald. I'm messing with you. You know what? Miami's been so good to me over the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I picked them 4 times. They've won 4 times. The only problem is I really see their luck running out this week. I think Goff is finally ready to prove himself, and I think that momentum and I think the fan noise because of the excitement is going to be too much for Miami, and I think LA actually pulls this one out.
Let's do something different for this week's pick because we all know we're taking the Patriots against the Niners. Shelby, how many yards does Tom Brady and how many touchdowns does Tom Brady throw against the 49ers? I'm going 340 and 3 touchdowns.
I'm going to go like 240, maybe 2 touchdowns, just because I think they're just going to get their lead, run the ball with LeGarrette Blount, James White, and I think Deion Lewis is back this week as well.
Yeah.
And Gronk injured, but yeah, that game's going to be a rout. But I think Brady's actually his stat line isn't very impressive because it doesn't need to be.
Have you met Bill Belichick? The man does. I thought the man has no mercy against any team, supposedly.
Have you met Bill Belichick?
Yeah, have you?
Of course not. Do you think that man would ever have time for me? Are you kidding me? Plus, I'd probably make fun of him for the Deflategate, Tim.
And he'd go, I have Super Bowls, kid.
You're right. I don't play. I shouldn't say I don't play sports. I play lacrosse, so that's out of the question. I'm gonna go 300. I'm gonna go 2 touchdowns, and is Gronk out for the?
Yeah.
Okay. So they have ruled him out completely.
They haven't ruled him out, but he hasn't practiced yet, and all week, and they said he's probably only gonna miss the game because he's a ridiculous specimen.
Right.
And he actually didn't put a hole in his lung or whatever it was.
That guy could retire now and probably still go to Canton.
Probably, but Gronk's ridiculous.
He's so good, man. All right, guys. Eagles, Seahawks. Carson Wentz has been a very good story. The Eagles' defense has been a very good story, like we mentioned earlier. But there's always something different when you got to go to the link and play the Seahawks. I think C.J. Prosise is going to probably be Theo Riddick-esque this week, by about 60, 70 yards out of the backfield. I like the Seahawks be 7-2-1 after this.
I like the Seahawks too, and I don't know how much Prosise is going to. I don't know how much Thomas Rawls is going to actually play in this one. But something about Russell Wilson turning it on in the second half of the season. We saw it last year, and he got a big win in Foxborough last week through 3 touchdowns to Doug Baldwin. And I think Carson Wentz definitely going to struggle in that environment and against that defense. And I'm going to go with Seattle in a low-scoring, close game, like 20-10-ish, because like I mentioned earlier in the show, the Eagles' defense has been mighty impressive.
I'm just going to be different. I'm just for the sake of being different on this one, because the picks mean nothing. I'm going Eagles.
Oh, you didn't know the winner gets a championship belt at the end of the season?
Is that your WWE mock-up belt?
No.
Darn it!
My John Cena spinner belt was stolen from a 6-year-old kid, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Darn! All right.
So, Sunday Night Football this week, we have the Washington Redskins hosting the Green Bay Packers, who are having a really weird year. It's shocking to see how bad of a season they've had. They just added Christine Michael, though. I don't think it's going to matter. Kirk Cousins has been on a roll. I like the Skins to be in this one, and because it's going to make that division even more interesting, because all those teams have winning records, and all those teams have been competitive this year, but the Cowboys obviously being the best.
Right. I'm going to go with Washington, too. Kirk Cousins, he just had a really good game against Minnesota's secondary that was supposed to be very good. And, Cousins showing his worth right now and showing why he wants that money. And I think he gets it done against the Packers team that's just in shambles, and no one really knows why. And they're calling Mike McCarthy out. Rodgers has all his weapons, but it's just not getting done in Wisconsin this time of year. And their playoff streak's in jeopardy, just like our Bengals. And I think the Redskins win.
I think Aaron Rodgers is still worried about his insurance going up with that discount double check from throwing a golf club into his car. I'm going Washington as well.
So, Gilman, we've got this weird thing going on. These young teams in California making things happen. One of those being the Los Angeles Lakers on fire. And joining them is the Oakland Raiders at 7-2. This game in Mexico on Monday Night Football against the Houston Texans. They can play this game in Jupiter. They can play this game in New York. They can play this game in Brazil. The Oakland Raiders are going to win this game regardless of where they play this game.
The Raiders!
Was that you, Shelby?
Yeah, that was me.
That was really good.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm right there with you. They could play it in Jupiter, and it wouldn't make Brock Osweiler any better. The Raiders just have too much talent all around. Houston has that ability to surprise people. They came in and beat the undefeated Bengals on Monday night last year, but I just really like the direction this Raiders team's going, whether they stay in Oakland or move to Sin City. And I like them Monday night south of the border.
Well, that would be one major way of going out if you do move to Sin City. Winning a freaking Super Bowl. I mean, that would be ridiculous, but I'm going Oakland here. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at this. Did you see that our favorite Pittsburgh Steeler fan in the media decided to call Cam Newton overrated?
Who's that?
Stephen A. Smith.
Oh.
Because if Stephen A. Smith says it,
it's gotta be true.
It's like Colin Cowherd. If Cowherd says it's gotta be true, right?
Yeah.
Dude, Stephen A. Smith is like the most maddening creature in the world, I think.
That dude had the nerve to say, "Oh, who calls a face mask that late in the game?" In the Dallas game. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
But by the way, Tim, I was trying to get you on your rant. We haven't had a Tim rant in a while. I'm starting to miss this. Come on.
AJ Green's overrated.
Don't get me started.
Oh, man. Gosh, I'm like trying to think of one now. You had to put me on the spot. Okay, so I want to get the lightning round out where we pick the games because I want to touch this real quick because, Matt, I know this was important to have this on the show this week. You wrote the article. It's out today. You listed some candidates for who could potentially fill in the role if they ever let Marvin Lewis go. Shelby and I both agree that Marvin Lewis will be here next year because that's what the Bengals do. So, with that being said, you listed John Gruden, Tom Coughlin, and Josh McDaniels. I think the game is past Tom Coughlin, I won't lie to you, as much as I do like him. But, Shelby, to go with Matt's argument here, I know what we think, but if not Marvin, then who?
Well, I'm firm with saying it's going to be Marvin, but, out of those candidates, I don't see Coughlin doing it. I really don't want Josh McDaniels, and I don't think...
What's exactly your reasoning for that, if you don't mind me asking? Is it the Tim Tebow draft pick? Does that still bug you? Because he drafted Demaryius Thomas, too.
Okay, but, what has he done to grant another chance? He collapsed enormously in Denver after starting, I believe, 6-0.
He won a playoff game with Tim Tebow.
Well, the playoffs are different. That would be something
overtime.
new.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I was just curious your thoughts on that.
Well, what was his record the next season with Denver after winning that glorious playoff game? Because I think they went 4-12 and then got rid of him and drafted Von Miller.
I think we got timelines mixed up.
He's been in New England since 2001 as a personnel assistant. So really, and he was a defensive assistant before he became quarterbacks coach in 2004. And who's his guy that he's like, oh, he's transformed into elite guy? Yeah, Tom Brady. But Sam Weiss had a pretty good quote about coaching Joe Montana when he was with the 49ers. You just kind of sit back with your arms folded and let him do what he wants. And honestly, that's probably pretty much the same what McDaniels gets to do with Tom Brady. I mean, after Denver, he went to the Rams. He was offensive coordinator for one season. didn't hear anything about him, and then Belichick brought him back in 2012. So I don't really see what he's done. You know, he drafted the worst first-round quarterback of all time. Granted, he won a playoff game with them. Maybe that's because Mike Clark can't play in Denver, or
Yeah,
the
Ryan
Steelers
Clark.
Ryan Clark, yeah. But, you know, I just don't think he's really qualified to, you know, to take over a franchise like that. But I don't think Bill Cowher or John Gruden are going to come out of retirement to coach the Bengals. It's a rumor every offseason that Cowher has a house in Cleveland. He's going to coach the Browns. It's never going to happen. Gruden says he's comfortable. He's comfortable broadcasting Monday night. So if I were to say anyone to replace Marvin right now, look at Jonathan Hayes, the tight ends coach from the Bengals. If Mike Brown wants to hire from within, Paul Alexander, the offensive line coach, has been there since 1994. I don't think he'd give it. I don't think he'd give it to Gunther or Zampese just because they've only been here a few years. And from the outside, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really thought about it because I'm so wrapped up in my belief that he's going to be the head coach next season, and who knows, maybe 5 years from now we'll still be talking about him.
Well, you know, first off, I wrote that because of, you know, the readers. I mean, we knew we'd get some readership on it. I do believe that Marvin will be the head coach no matter what next year. Whether he gets a contract extension going into that year is a different story. But I honestly think if we were looking at the candidates, you know, I don't care what age Tom Coughlin is. You know, he has 3 Super Bowl championships. He's done it with guys like Mark Brunell, and he's done it with guys like Eli Manning, 2 quarterbacks that I think in any other system are terrible, or are I shouldn't say terrible, are good quarterbacks at best. And so I really think that Tom Coughlin has the ability to come in and do it. Plus, he's on record of saying, listen, I've thought about coming back and coaching, but I don't want to come back into a bad situation. I want to come back into a good situation, which when you replace a head coach, it's kind of hard to come back in a good situation. But, you know, if you look at it, they've got a lot of the pieces. Yes, I think there's a couple pieces that need to be added to bring this team back up to, you know, the caliber they were even last year. But at the same time, Tom Coughlin is the one guy that I think could get him over that hump, could get something done and inspire these players, because he's not going to take any of the crap and he's fiery. And that's exactly what I think these Bengals need at times, when you have a guy like Marvin Lewis just standing on the sidelines with his arms folded, showing no emotion.
Yeah. Are you giving Coughlin a 3rd Super Bowl from when he was receivers coach for Super Bowl 25?
I think it is, but at the same time, he still has his 3 Super Bowl rings, doesn't he?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, 2 as a
head coach. 2 as a head coach.
We're not interviewing him for a receivers coach role, but
no.
James Urban does a good job of that. Yeah.
But he also took a franchise that basically was starting from absolutely nothing, and got them to the playoffs in the first few years. And if I'm not mistaken,
Marvin Lewis.
What's that?
Sounds like Marvin Lewis.
But he won. He won with Jacksonville. That's the difference.
Well, his quarterback didn't get hurt on the first play of offense.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, again, he won a playoff game. He has history of winning big games, and he's got the fire and the passion to do it.
What do you think of Norv Turner?
Dude, yeah, Tyler Eifert would have 100 catches.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he'd have 24, and then he'd be hurt.
I think that is kind of the downfall too of this Vikings team, is the fact that Norv Turner walked away.
Yeah.
I don't care the fact that you have a disagreement with a head coach and you're walking away from your team because you have a disagreement with him. Go cry in a corner. I'm sorry. You have a job to do, and you have guys that you have committed yourself to for the season, and you're gonna cry about the fact that you and the head coach had a disagreement. Boo-hoo.
One name, guys, and I'm just throwing it out there, is Hugh Jackson.
I thought the same thing.
I did too.
If they go 0-16, if they go 0-16, I know the situation he walked into. If I were the Browns GM, would have bought him a few years automatically because it's that bad. But if he goes 0-16, only the second team to ever do it, I wouldn't be surprised if he lost his job. I mean, considering Cleveland,
I would.
how many coaches they run through the mill all the time, and you know that Mike Brown, he's got connections with Hugh Jackson, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
But they didn't leave on the best of terms either, because Hugh Jackson didn't want to sit behind, and he didn't want to sign any type of contention thing. And same with Mike Brown, he didn't want to sign any contention thing, saying that Hugh Jackson would get the job, and I think that burned a bridge with both of them.
But how close him and Marvin Lewis are?
Well, I agree with that, but at the same time here, what I'm also looking at is I don't think the Browns are going to give up after one season, because you can look at it. How many quarterbacks have they had this season? 4?
I know. It's a stretch, but I'm just saying because it's the Browns and how many coaches they go through and how impatient they are, rightfully so, that it wouldn't surprise me if Hugh Jackson did something that only one other team has ever done and go winless in a season, go 0-16. I mean, if they fired him, it would be the wrong move in my opinion, but it wouldn't shock people.
No.
Well, let's also look at it this way. Cleveland will have 3 teams that made some kind of record in basically this year.
Yeah, the only difference is one of those teams has LeBron James, the best basketball player on the planet,
and the other has one of the best head coaches in Major League Baseball.
They're not coaches; they're managers.
Or sorry, managers. Managers. I'm sorry.
We're gonna give you like a 5-yard penalty on that one, Matt. So.
You know what? Just give me a 15-yard personal foul. I mean,
pull the Travis Kelce, throw the flag.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Supposedly I suck, so give me 2 personal fouls. I'll get out of here.
Hey guys, I think on that note we can go and wrap up this week's edition of Men in Stripes by StripeHype.com. So we're gonna go ahead and knock this one out. Hope for the best against the Buffalo Bills this week. The very best. They need the very best. Everyone enjoy your week and have a Hoo Day Sunday.
Who dat?
Who dat?